All right, so before we begin with some of the activities and presentation that we're going to go through, just two logistical updates for your edification, because we just confirmed with the Office of Curriculum and Instruction that parent-teacher conferences will be held on Tuesday, November 28th. So that's 2 weeks from yesterday. Is today Wednesday? It's 2 weeks from yesterday. So on Tuesday, November 28th, parent-teacher conferences will be held at Mount Vernon High School from 6 to 8. 6 to 8. We used to do 6:30 to 8:30, and we found that 8:30 turns into 8:40 and 8:45 and 8:50, and you all need to come back and be refreshed and teach the next day. So we're moving it to 6 to 8. So we'll be sending out notification to you all officially via email. We're sending out information to our parent body via email. Report cards will be mailed home. So it is the expectation that when parents report for parent-teacher conferences, they have a copy of their child's report card. All right, so that's the logistical update for today. We're going to go through an activity, we're going to go through a presentation today. And so the reason why we had you sitting at round tables today is for the purpose of helping to guide a conversation that's going to take place in a few minutes, a discussion among your table, and we have some very, very important information to share with you guys in terms of the social emotional piece that goes into what it is that we do every day. All right, so everyone should have a handout that looks like this. It says mentoring. There are plenty of handouts. They should be at the tables and up here. If you don't have one, please raise your hand. Mr. Becker. Dr. Brand, you have any extra copies over there? Is this table all set now? Everyone should have their own copy. So what we're going to do in a second with this document is you're going to read a section of the document. I'll give you the further instructions in just a minute. But just so that we're all on the same page in terms of the document and what portion of the document we're going to read, the article. At the top, it says a critical need for reducing youth violence. That's going to be section 1. So put a number 1 next to that section. Underneath, that says mentoring as a lever for reducing youth violence. That's going to be section 2. On the back, it says a need to invest in mentoring. That's section 3. Next column, it says enhancing protective factors to promote positive development. That's going to be section 4. Next page, it says spotlight on black male achievement. That's section 5. And the last page in its entirety is section 6, ways to invest in mentoring. So everyone follow so far? There are 6 sections. If we marked off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on the document. So now I'm going to assign each table a number, and that number is corresponding to your section of the article. And we'll give you further instructions in a minute. Okay, so this is table 1. You guys are table 2. 3 to the clinical staff. You're table 3, section 3. This is 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. Ms. Dendy's table 3. Mr. Calhoun and Ms. Weatherly's table 4. The science crew, 5, and the cafeteria table 6. Did everyone receive a number? You didn't? Table 1, section 1. So everyone understands what section they're assigned? All right, so here's the deal. We're all going to stand behind your chair. Read your section silently to yourself. When you're finished reading, pull your chair out, have a seat. This way I know that everyone in the room is done, so we can transition to the next. As you read, look for quotes, sentences, statistics, or words that resonate with you. So read on your own, that's silently, your section. What I'd like for you to do is take the next 5 minutes total, at your tables, discuss that section. Someone from the table select a point that resonated with you, whether it's a statistic, a specific quote, an entire sentence, a portion of that passage, and then let's have a popcorn conversation at our tables. Popcorn, that means you just shout it out across the table and you agree with or disagree with the quote, something else you want to add to that, a point that you would like to make, share the quote that or statistic or sentence that resonated with you. All right, so take 5 minutes and let's engage in those conversations.
Carrying a young person with support of non-parental adult or older peer could significantly shape the success path to adulthood. And the reason that jumped out to me is
The crime in general is dropping. What's that? I said the crime in general is dropping for 20 years. Yeah. I don't know what other factors are.
I'd also like to give information, but also who has like prior experience with it. So they're talking to someone who has like a relative.
Right here, onset.
right at the beginning, it's onset.
I think I have onset Alzheimer's, onset dementia.
I guess I had another one too. Youth violence leads to increased
Lovely. Oh yeah, it's not easy.
I took it more like, let's go out. Right to McDonald's, right to pizza, right to make my video games, talk about.
Because I went there for a party and everybody in numbered and works that way as well. And all I heard going, what I said to you, I make
Throughout the room. Folks in the back, I don't know if you can hear the mic. So I'll share with you some of the commentary that I heard as I walked throughout the room. I heard things like, this is nothing new. I also heard things like, this is refreshing to see how they made a tie to a financial component to it. I also heard comments like, not necessarily sure that you want to quantify homicide by talking about the financial impact that has on society. And that was the purpose of this, one of the purposes of this reading and sharing exercise, is that this should generate a visceral response. This should generate something that gives you an opinion, whether it's pro or against. You have an opinion on the topic because it's something that we experience every day. So what's been resonating with me lately, more lately than in my prior years of education, is that education is a very complex thing. school education, right? There are different levels of education, and nowadays, all of the responsibility falls on principals, schools, teachers, and all of the support staff, clinicians, teaching assistants. We are the end-all, we are the catch-all for schools. And when I was going through leadership training for my first master's in 2001, 2002, I'll never forget that they shared with me, well, you need to be ready to answer all the questions. Like when the parent calls the house and says, it's raining outside, should I send Johnny to school? But that's more and more what we are asked to do, is answer all types of questions, is to be the catch-all. So education now, as complex as it is, means that we have to educate children not just for academic achievement, but for socially appropriate behavior, self-esteem, helping them to feel physically and emotionally safe, helping them to have an understanding of content, helping them to have an understanding of where they fit in, what's their identity. And now, in 2017, we're also faced with what used to be uncommon disasters happening inside and to schools. So yesterday, the elementary school in California that went into lockdown because there was a shooter walking around the facility. So while this person, and I've only read what's on CNN and MSN so far, but while this person has, at least what's been shared now, has no connection to school, he chose to try and enter a school. But the part that really resonated with me from this particular story was that everyone in that building knew precisely what to do at the moment that they heard something happening outside. So they immediately enacted their emergency response protocol, whatever that protocol is. They locked every door. The teachers knew exactly what to do with the students. The students got low. And the shooter took shots through the glass windows and through the walls. From what I read, one child was injured, but not life-threatening. But it took that mindset of being prepared for an emergency like an active shooter. It took a mindset for every single person in that building to go into emergency response mode and save the lives of every single child in that building. That's how complex education is now. So, one of the things I consistently think about is, what's the next step for that entire school? How are all of those children going to report back to school tomorrow, today, tomorrow, Friday, next week, whenever they report back to school? What support system is going to be in place for the students and the staff? All too often, the staff is forgotten because we're so concerned with the students, and I get that. But we need to be equipped also, not just with knowing what to do in the event of an emergency, but knowing where to turn for help. How do we engage in these very difficult conversations that are going to result, that are going to come about as a result of a situation like that? And I used to kid around with folks and say, well, we've had enough emergencies in Mount Vernon High School that we know how to do a lockdown. And one of the things we know how to do well is make sure that we regain control of the building with teachers locking doors, etc. But that's certainly not something that we need to ever take lightly. So, what I'd like for us to do is, where's Ms. Williams? She ready? Ms. Williams? She left. She was standing here a second ago. What I'd like for us to do is we're going to transition into an activity that will help you juxtapose this whole what does it take to be a mentor piece, the multiple definitions of a mentor, as Ms. Williams entered the room, the multiple definitions of a mentor with emergency response and the whole youth development piece. So one of the reasons why we went into academies is so that you know exactly where to go and who to turn to. So we're going to introduce our clinical support staff to you, We're going to go through an activity with them so that you have a better understanding of what the needs are, who you can go to for support, and questions that you might have. Ms. Williams, you ready?
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry?
Happy Wednesday.
Oh, thank you. Happy Wednesday. So today, what we wanted to do was to just go over the role that teachers have to play in the social emotional development of students. And I am joined by the illustrious PPS staff at Mount Vernon High School. So if you are a school counselor, school social worker, or school psychologist, if you could just please stand for a moment so that you can be acknowledged. Later on at the end of the presentation, we're going to have an opportunity to introduce them individually so you know their name, their room number, and if their specific role in the building. But before we get started, I kind of wanted to do a little bit of an icebreaker. It's a little unconventional. Maybe some of you have seen it before. But, you know, my goal is to stand up and look around, okay? So if you have an index card, and first of all, I want to say thank you to all of the faculty members that happily took the card from me when I said, please take this index card and hold on to it for me. I know that it's the end of the day and we're really ready to go, and so I don't want to make this hard for anyone, but I do want to make an impact. And if I'm going to take this few minutes of your time, I want to make sure that it's something that you remember. So if you have an index card with the word blue on it, if you would join me in the back. We're actually going to... I promise I won't bite. And I promise you won't have to say anything. All right. You will not have to say anything. I just need you to stand up for just a moment. And if you can form this horizontal line, and in between each of you, there will be a student. Okay, so some of you have seen this exercise done before, and for some of you this might be new. Oftentimes this exercise is used to show diversity and to show the uniqueness of the lives and backgrounds of people that we work with on an everyday basis. I'm going to put a little spin on it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I am going to ask you to step forward if the following applies to you. So because some of you are going to step forward significantly, I'm going to ask everybody to take 3 steps back. Awesome. Okay. Step forward if you have lived your entire childhood with both parents. Take small steps. Step forward if you have a college-educated parent or parents. Step forward if you have a family member impacted by drug or alcohol abuse. Step forward if you are first-generation American. Step forward if you... Yes, think about that. Step forward if you are first-generation college student. Will be if for the young folks. Step forward if you have witnessed a violent crime. Step forward if you have ever avoided the school cafeteria in high school. Step forward if you have mourned the loss of an immediate family member. Step forward if you have ever been discriminated against based on race, gender, or other bias. And lastly, step forward if you are deeply concerned about your safety in the United States given the current political climate. Okay, freeze where you are. Ladies and gentlemen, look how closely we are to our students. The age gap may be small because we're young. The cultural diversity mix on this group of people, the socioeconomic mix in this group of people doesn't separate us. It connects us. Our diversity is an added gift to our humanity. And if we often take the opportunity to see how connected we are to each other and our students, our empathy level will go up exponentially. Thank you, guys. So that's the first little bit of today's presentation. I hope it kind of directs the energy for the latter parts. We were supposed to have a PowerPoint. There's some documents that's being passed around. Our apologies for the technical difficulties, but I hope that you will follow through with me as we try to kind of fast pace through today's workshop. So the first page really gives you a quick snapshot, right? It says, consider who we serve. If you haven't gotten one, it's coming around. That one's a little different. If you got one that's stapled, it might be a little different than what I'm referring to, but you will get the authentic copy momentarily. But consider who we serve. As much as we are alike, those differences do exist. 934 of our students in the Mount Vernon City School District, of the 8,000 total, are identified as homeless. That was a staggering number for me, right? Approximately 33% of the students at Mount Vernon High School have an IEP, approximately. And let me not neglect to mention that of that 934 students that I mentioned, just about 140 of those homeless students are students here at Mount Vernon High School. 140 out of our approximately 1,300, right? So sometimes we see students walking in the hallway and they have on the clothing that's really inappropriate. Some of it is really tight-fitting. Some of them don't have a choice. Some of them come to school and they have melodic odors. Some of them don't have a choice. Just want you to just think about that. Approximately 85% of our students receive free or reduced lunch. Approximately 46% of our students go on to four-year colleges and universities, but approximately 87% of our students go on to some form of higher education, whether it's an associate's degree program or a bachelor's degree program. And lastly, we haven't gotten the statistics on our ELL population. I didn't want to misquote them, but I'll put this out there. Have you noticed an increase in the number of students in our building if you've worked here for 5 years or more, in the population of students that speak multiple languages and those whom have not learned English as a first language? If you have, please raise your hand. Put your hands down. Let's think about the implications of that. What does that mean in the learning process? The next page, what competes for your students' attention? Everything. There's 1,000 things going on. What competes for your attention every day, right? You come, you drive to work. Some of us have a crazy long commute or a very short but hectic commute. You know, you get here and the kids are at the door waiting for you. I don't know if you have that experience, but I drop my son. Some of you see me running to the bus at 7:20 in the morning, and I'm like, get on the bus, have a great day, that's wonderful, okay, bye. You know, and I get in the door, and all I want to do is take off my jacket and take a deep breath and a sip of my coffee, and there is a line in 186, right? Our students have so much going on. And one of the things that I want you to think about in our relationship with our students is that they can still be successful academically here in our building. despite all the stuff that's competing for their attention. Despite the fact that some of them may not have breakfast, some of them are worried about whether their parents will be able to pay the rent. So I'll never forget one of my most memorable, I don't want to call her my favorite because that would be a tough competition, but one of my most memorable students wrote a fabulous college essay. And in her essay, she wrote to me about, and I felt like she was writing to me, about the consistent flooding in her home. That she would regularly, almost by the month, have to regroup and rewash all of her clothing because it flooded in her basement apartment. Come to find out this was a legal dwelling, this family was homeless, right? But you never knew it when you saw this girl. She was top of the class, smile every day, just an amazing human being with an amount of grit. And I know that's like a real popular term these days. If you haven't gotten the book, ask for it for Christmas or whichever holiday you celebrate as we come into these holiday months. It's a great read, and it really talks about the resiliency of successful people, the tenacity of successful people. And our children have a lot of grit. Sometimes that grit unearths us because they're not afraid to tell us to back up. The next page is keep calm. We're here to help. It might seem amazingly insurmountable what everybody is going through and what we're doing, but we can get through it. So, I know I'm on my last I'm on my last 5 minutes. So what I want to do is just remind us on the next page, it says, you know, knowledge is your capital and people are your resource. You have a resource here in this building to help you serve as you're working. I know you have your content area base that you need to work on and you need to make sure the kids get it. But this social emotional piece is so important. And if we work collaboratively as a team, you will be surprised at how behavior will change and culture will change. So at this time, I'm going to ask the school counselors if they could stand and introduce themselves to you with their full name and their room number. And we have a member of our staff, 2 members of our staff that have a very unique position and role to play in our high school. So if we could start with Ms. Green. But she's one of the few counselors that have a very unique role to play in high school.
Right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lolita Zapata Adams Garcia Green, and I'm in the 9th grade academy, 237.
Hello, everyone. I am Nina Capitelli. I'm the transition counselor for Mount Vernon High School. I am in room 147. My role is a little unique. I work with everyone's students that have IEPs and 504s. I am the person that they come to for Access VR, and I am also the person that can easily work with all of them to do some career exploration, some career assessments, and I hope to see you all. I know a lot of you, but if you don't know me, 147.
Militano. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to get to you. Don't worry.
Hi, Andrea Militano. I'm a PTE Benjamin Banneker. I'm a school counselor, and I'm also in 147.
Ms. Militano, did you mention that you came to us from Mandela School?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I came to you from Mandela.
Right. No, you didn't know her. She is new to our building, but definitely not new to counseling. Then we have Miss, I don't want to say what you said.
Hi, I'm Tony Trombetta. I'm the school counselor. I share STEM with Ms. Williams, and I'm also the AVID counselor. I'm in room 186.
Again, not new to counseling, but new to our building. She came from Brown Elementary School. Awesome. Mr.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cuparulo. I'm in room 147, Mrs. Militano. We are in the Benjamin Banneker Academy.
And Mr. Gianelli. Oh, okay. Well, Mr. Gianelli is in room 105. He is our humanities school counselor. Did I miss anyone? Awesome. Okay. School psychologists, would you please stand? And feel free to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Annie Parchment-Pennant, school psychologist in room 210.
Hi, I'm Indira Labre, school psychologist. I'm in room 210.
Paula McFarland, school psychologist, and also in 210.
And last but not least, our school social workers. That's you, Doc. That's you.
I'm Catherine Barrow, and I'm a school social worker with the humanities department, and I'm in room 105.
Hi, Alicia Hardy-Joseph. I'm a school
social worker. I'm in room 148 in the Benjamin Banneker Department.
Hi, I'm Clarice Imbriano. I'm in the STEM Academy, or STEM.
You got it.
SLC. And I'm in 186.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Maxine Cole Wilshire. I am the substance abuse social worker. I'm in room 268C.
Good afternoon. My name is Lillian Reynolds. I'm the homeless liaison for the district, and my room is room 268B. And I hope that all of you guys respond to the Be an Angel this year, because we have a lot of homeless students. We want to make sure everyone gets something for Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you guys for taking the time to introduce yourselves. I'm going to advance 2 pages in the handout that you got. We are well trained, we are well practiced, and we are well equipped. And then the next one is my guy here. We had a presentation on who you're going to call. So for those of you that have those little cards that have a scenario on the back of it, thank you for volunteering, but we ran out of time. But the thing that I want to focus on before we end, and I know this is, again, one of those catchphrases that we talk about, the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. Have you heard of this before? Great book out. And it's wonderful to think about how we talk to our students and how we encourage our students. So I can learn anything I want to would be an example of the growth mindset. And then the fixed mindset is I'm either good at it or I'm not. And I know that all of us have had that experience where a student says, that's just how I am, right? When I'm frustrated, I persevere. When I'm frustrated, I give up. I want to challenge myself. I don't like to be challenged. Our high achieving students, they struggle with this, right? They want to be the best, but that is a real challenge for them. Tell me I try hard. Tell me I'm smart, right? My effort and attitude determine everything. My abilities determine everything, right? So we want teachers to speak to the effort, struggle, the strategies of self-application in the classroom and foster those things more than we are currently doing, I would dare say. I think that there's so much conviction about making sure that the content gets to the student that we forget this major piece to help them absorb it, right? There is a quick review of the different things that school counselors, school social workers, and psychologists do. And the last thing before I turn it over to Mr. Gonzalez is if you build it, they will come, right? We're talking about character education is going to be a big part of our school building. And I just want to focus on 5 quick things. Civility and respect. We all want our students to be civil and respectful to one another and to us, and we want to be that for them. Honesty, right? Constructive criticism has to be candid in order for it to be effective, but it doesn't have to lack kindness, right? The work ethic. We all sacrifice an inordinate amount to make sure that we're ready for our students each day, and we have to also recognize the sacrifices that they make to be prepared for us. We want to develop trust for our students. They want to know that we are treating them fairly, and we want to know that they trust us to do that. And lastly, a sense of gratitude and appreciation. I'm always impressed when I see Mr. Gonzalez walk down the hall and pick up a piece of paper on the floor. This is our school. This is our environment, right? If we develop an attitude of gratitude, how much different will our day-to-day interactions be? So I thank you so much for your time, Mr. Gonzalez. I'll turn it over to you.
Very well said, very well put together. Thank you to all of the people that had some input on that powerful information that was shared. Please take some time to review the documents that you received today and start to have conversations with your colleagues and with your students, not just with your students. I forget who it was the other day that I was walking into the building. I said good morning to someone by name. Denise, was it Macaulay, Mary, Ricciardi? So, someone said to me, that's so nice that you know the staff's name. And I was almost shocked because I felt like I should know the staff's name. But then she stopped me. She said, no, it's bigger than that. It's calling them out by name and saying hello to people and being civil. You know that old saying, kids want to know how much you care before they care how much you know? It's powerful. And when you take time away from the all-important content material to develop that relationship, you'll have the kids right where you want them. So in the spirit of knowing a little bit about your students, I'll share with you, I'll end with a shout out. I don't know if they were acknowledged yet, but I know that we have 2 folks in this building that ran the marathon, the New York City Marathon. So Mr. Morris, please stand up, be acknowledged. Mr. Morris, is this your first marathon?
First marathon, yeah.
First marathon. Congratulations, Mr. Morris.
Now let's shout out this
You have 28 more to go. Is that right?
29.
29 more to go to catch Mr. Aronson, who also.
That was 30.
That's it, folks. I appreciate your time and attention to this very important information today.